Ungeonga kabisa. Onyalo dok. Oh, welcome back. Thank you for keeping tuned to BTV Kenya. Thank you for keeping tuned to the vibrant morning. We are back after the breather. And remember, we move to page 5 of the People Daily newspaper, where we see Kalonzo accuses Ruto allies over IEBC. Now, former vice president was categorical. President's men bear the highest responsibility in the current constitutional crisis. A story is by Rollins Otieno. Opposition leader Kalonzo Musyoka has sensationally claimed those blocking the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission's IBC are puppets of President William Ruto. You can grab a copy of People Daily and read much of that story more comprehensively. And we also have a good news to film industry, the media industry. Now, Kenya to host African Media Festival edition in Nairobi next month. The story is by Samuel Karaoke. Kenya is set to host the third edition of African Media Festival, AMF, slated for February 26th and 27th at the National Museum of Kenya in Nairobi. And Kenya has been holding this festival now for the third time in a row. You can grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read of much. Now, to page 6, where we see counties clash with the national bursary order. Now, according to the controller of budget, involvement of counties in bursary allocation is against the law and should cease. Now, that's a story by Rollins Otieno. Now, county governments are on coalition course with the national government over disbursement of bursaries to the students. Remember, the county government has been giving bursaries to the needy students. Now we see, according to the control of budget, it is unconstitutional and it is not allowed by law for the county government to get involved in giving bursaries to the students. You can also grab a copy and read that story more comprehensively. On matters of education, we see teacher service, junior secondary school teachers should have now a story by Matthew Ndungu and Faith Masharia. Primary school teachers seeking promotion to junior secondary school JSS should have scored a minimum grade of C+ in Kenya Certificate of Secondary School Education. Now, Teacher Service Commission TSC has set stricter academic qualification to enhance learning in schools. You can also grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read much of that story. As we continue, we see World Health Organization issues regional alert over Marburg kills 8 in Tanzania. Now, but the agency says outbreak should not affect travel and trade activities, urging countries to be prepared to manage the potential cases. The story is by George Kibaso. And Marburg virus disease has reportedly claimed 8 people in Kagera, Tanzania, prompting the World Health Organization to issue alert to Kenya and other countries in the region. You can also grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read much of that story, because it's a story that is touching on health matters. Now, on the same, we see Lusaka deploys over 500 newly hired workers in Bungoma. SIBO. More than 500 recently hired health workers, including doctors, nurses, IT experts, cleaners, and cooks, have been in Bungoma County. You can grab a copy and read much of that. We get to issues to do with pharmacists, where we see pharmacists lose license in cases of misconduct. Now, Pharmacy and Poison Board has suspended or revoked license of several pharmaceutical practitioners for being involved in profession. And we see the decision followed complaints from members of the public. Among pharmacists that has faced this challenge, that they are like, you can grab much of that. Now let's move on to page 8. In page 8 we see human trafficking cartel and Kenya refugee sites, where we see they target refugee with promise of better life, then exploit them for labor in concentration. Story by Zadok and Gira. Detectives have unearthed a new ambitious targeting refugees at the Dab camp in Garissa County, which smuggled the refugee to Libya at a fee. You can also grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read much of that story more comprehensively. And Salt, a story by Zadok Angira, who up and over has been league. You can also grab a copy and read. And on briefly AI, artificial intelligence funding, Thika-based university ZTech has won a grant to examine use of artificial intelligence in teaching and research. You can also grab us now. Today I will the day, so let me move with the speed so that we read some of the stories that we have for you. In we move on to page 12, where we see counterfeit qualifications, skilling education, and material skilling and counterfeit qualification. Are now education. Awarding of honorary degrees to Kenyan politicians. Ban of education aid. Now you can also grab a copy and read much of that story. And entitled Culture Among Youth Put Bad for Democracy. Youth Bad for Democracy. You can also read that story and more and more and more. We to page 13. In page 13, here we see tears of joy as trio on murder charges acquitted. We had given you this story last year. Suspects have been arraigned over alleged murder of Nairobi County Enforcement Officer. Three stories by Winston Cheseremi. 3 men, among them a secondary school teacher, enforcement officer. 4 shed tears in Eldoret High Court when the presiding judge acquitted them. You can grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read that story more comprehensively. Get to know what is in the story. And another story by Alphonse Mungau, transfer of judges takes plea, taking in baby Pendo case to January 29. The High Court has pushed the plea taking of 12 police officers accused of killing baby Samantha Pendo 7 years ago to January 29th. You remember the famous story of baby Pendo. You can grab a copy and read much of that story. Fraudster arraigned over 233 million fake gold. 233 million Kenya shillings fake gold. A story by Alphonse Mungau. 2 businessmen have been charged with defrauding Brighton over 233 million Kenya shillings in fake 2,820 gold fraud. Now that's also a story I believe you can grab and read more comprehensively. That story is in page 13 of the People Daily newspaper. Now we move on to page 14. Move matatus so we can clean up, says City Hall. We can also see City Hall cleaning. We see Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja during time for cleaning of City Hall Nairobi. Now cleaning team have been having difficulties carrying out their duties because of matatus and were left behind by hawkers. And wares were left behind by hawkers. Story by Alvin Sumwangi. City Hall has directed matatu owners to vacate stages during designated cleaning hours at night to allow county staff to conduct thorough cleaning. You can grab a copy and read much of that story. And moving on to Pokot, where we see groups start project to empower Pokot youth to build skills. A story by Wycliffe Kipsang. A project has been rolled out in West Pokot County aimed at empowering the youth to engage in business activities and shun harmful cultural practices. Grab a copy and read that story. Brief on that page, we see Jomvu MP calls for establishment of private KCSE exam centers. Now, Jomvu MP Badi Twalib has proposed the introduction of private examination centers for candidates sitting from 4 national exams. You can also grab a copy and read much of that story. We see residents protest over delay road works. A story by Ruben Mwambingu on the same page 14. Residents staged protest accusing Kenya National Highway Authority KENHA of dragging its feet in completing a section of Mombasa-Nairobi highway. Please grab a copy of People Daily newspaper and read that story and much more of what is in the People Daily newspaper. Now we move on to page 15, where World Health Organization report shows global drop in deaths from drowning. Now, however, global body paints a picture of disparities that influence risks, with male from poorer countries more likely to die.